Have you ever wondered if the military could have controlled the government? Although I personally wouldn't recommend it or condone it, government overthrowing is a part of human history. The founding of our country was through revolution and war. It helped create the foundations of our government and society today. All of us wouldn't ever dream of doing anything like that, or hardly notice as long as we go about our regular lives. However, a regime change is a very important event that luckily we wouldn't have to go through, but continues to occur in several countries today. Although rarely discussed in current politics or any current conversation, due to it never occurring in our history, the overthrow of government has been a constant cycle across the globe. Coup d'etat is a term frequently used to describe a forceful takeover, typically by the military defined by Britannica. They can be non-violent or violent, and oftentimes don't see too many changes from the previous regime. Coups were a very strange term to use and learn about. Going through world and European history, learning about the French Revolution and American Revolution, and regime changes in Latin America, I wanted to share my knowledge about government and the changes that can occur within. I wish to discuss the topic of coups and overthrowing the government, a French term meaning stroke of the state, by pointing out how they come to be, how they compare to other revolutions and seizures of power, and the history of coups and how they're relevant today. First, I want to dive into the details of coups and describe the conditions necessary for a coup. The term coup d'etat may be thrown around by people and activists that may have no idea of what they are. According to Ivan Perkins in his book, The Patterns of World History Since 1310, he describes a coup as a disorderly, unpredictable transfer of power accomplished through physical force or intimidation. And according to Britannica, the chief prerequisite for a coup is control of all or part of the military. There is no assistance from the population or large-scale combat with military takeover. A coup consists of infiltration by a small force that is critical to the state, that displaces the current government in control over the country. According to Edward N. Luttwak in his book, Coup d'etat, a Practical Handbook. According to Luttwak, a coup may happen at any time, but the success of a new government depends on the relationship between the population, bureaucracy, and the government. If the relationship between the pre-coup government and the people deteriorates or the population is apathetic towards their government, that makes the conditions for a coup more likely to be successful. He uses an example of 1958 France to describe the factors that deteriorate a relationship between the government and people. This includes severe and prolonged economic crisis with large-scale unemployment and inflation, a long, prolonged war with major defeats either militarily or diplomatically, and chronic instability under a multi-party system. Since we now understand the underlying factors and definitions of a coup, we can now look at different kinds of coups and different types of government being overthrown. Coups are specific in the sense that they can be apolitical and can have little policy changes. Unlike a revolution, which is usually achieved by large numbers of people working for social, economic, or political change, a coup is a change of power from the top that merely results in a replacement of the leading government personnel. There is a long list of different types of regime changes that don't fit the definition of coup. Civil wars are outright warfare by the population at large, according to Luttwak. Pronunciamientos are essentially a Spanish and Latin American coup, which is only done through the army, through a series of steps. Aside from different methods of overthrowing government, there are also different kinds of coups in the way they are executed. A breakthrough coup is a coup d'etat by a revolutionary army that overthrows a traditional government and creates a bureaucratic elite of military officers. A guardian coup d'etat, or musical chairs coup, is an aimed coup that's temporary in restoring public order and ending corruption, and they're often claimed that they're necessary. Coups that are done in the inside without any outside intervention is called a palace revolution, where the ruler is forced to accept new policies. Coups, revolutions, takeovers are usually really broad and extensive concepts to grasp. But now I want to talk a little bit about current events and current coups in modern society. The reason why we don't see many coups today, especially in the USA, is mostly due to the rule of law, according to Perkins, where the stability of the law weakens and dissolves personal loyalty relationships within the political military establishment. However, we still see many coups in Africa, and currently there's been a coup in Myanmar, and it was carried out by the military, detaining the National League for Democracy and officials like Aung San Suu Kyi. The military quickly seized control of the country's infrastructure, suspending their television, phone broadcasts, and canceling domestic and international flights. Although there have been many protests against the state of emergency, including a national boycott, expanding civil disobedience movement that has paralyzed the banking system, there's been little change in the coup. In conclusion, coup d'etats are still something that occur today and are a very different kind of actions than a takeover through war. It is a very small but important thing to understand, even if nothing may change after a coup. There is little worry for violence and a nation-encompassing conflict, but preventing a full-scale revolution or a civil war will be best. Even if we likely won't ever see a coup in our government today, they still occur across the globe that affect the geopolitical climate and the relations we have with the country. Hopefully this has shed some light on what exactly a coup d'etat is and gave a better understanding of types of coups and differences between revolutions and conflicts. The world is always changing and so does government. I hope this gave you a greater insight on the significance of coups today.